Hello, 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 wherever you are watching me from. This is our first restream. So if there are technical issues, then just let me know in the chat, which I'm going to pull up here. So, yes, you can definitely chat with me if you want, but I'm excited. And before we even get started, I want you to shake out like any energy that you have. Just like shake it up. It's a Thursday. It's like Friday Eve. It's like what? 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 It's like okay. And that's scene. Okay. So, hey, for anyone of you who don't know, I'm Trina J, confidence and visibility coach. So, what I help people do is I help them step out of their head, get on camera, get visible so they can attract their ideal clients and customers. And I will tell you a little bit about my story on how I came into this particular type of work and just, yeah, what that's about. And then we will hop into these 3 tricks that I have for you that is going to help you get out of your head and get into your heart and start getting visible and getting connected with people. Because I know that there are so many of you that are mission driven, that have a purpose that comes from your heart. Maybe it's deeply connected to your own personal journey, whether that's health and wellness, whether that is overcoming trauma, whether that is overcoming, pivoting, leaving corporate and building something, whatever your story is, it deserves to be heard. And part of becoming and courageous enough to become visible requires us to really face ourselves. And it requires us to have those come to Jesus conversations with ourselves. But sometimes we can have all the passion and the fire and the purpose in the world, but we just are afraid of being seen. We're afraid of failing. We're afraid of succeeding. We're afraid of people's opinion of what we're doing in the world. What are people going to think? What are they going to say? What are my friends going to think? What are my family members going to think? What are my, friends and my lovers? What are they going to think? I love that word. I love the word lovers. But to pop into this today. So, just to introduce myself for those of you who don't know. So, what happened as far as my work? So, I originally graduated with a degree in broadcast communications. And as soon as I graduated, I was like, I'm out. And I really think it was my internal barometer for, what would happen if I wasn't presentable for on camera work? What would happen if these different things? And I just really didn't resonate with I guess, the superficiality of it all. And what's interesting is then I segued into doing makeup for about 13 years as freelance and worked different corporate jobs along the journey. And there's so much that I was able to gather. However, with all of that different experience and all of the pivots and turns that I made in my career, I really felt shame. I felt shame about coming out with a purpose and a passion to empower people because I felt like I didn't fit a mold of what people would consider a person who has a message and has something to pour into them because I didn't see myself as valuable and I was shameful about my journey, about the traumas of my childhood, my journey. I had so many things, so many mistakes, so many could have had a V8 moment in my life. And that really kept me from being visible because I was just afraid. I was afraid that people were going to come out and call me out. I was afraid that I wouldn't live up to the guru-ness, which I still don't want to be called that because I think that's a little cuckoo. But nonetheless, that is what held me back for a really long time. So even though I started on this journey of coaching and wanting to serve people with my own voice back in, we're not even going to talk about how far that goes. That literally goes back to high school. But I was always afraid. I was always afraid of being visible. I was always afraid that I wasn't enough because of my background, of because my family history, because of my own personal journey and stumbling blocks and mistakes that I made. So I know thoroughly what it feels like to hide. I also know what it feels like to come out. and then go back into your turtle shell because it's too much stimulation, or you start to get comments that are uncomfortable and you say, you know what, forget this. I'll just go back to getting my bi-weekly paycheck because this is for the birds. Like, I say less. Back to corporate, like Indeed.com. Like, back in the day, it was like Career Builder and Monster. But what I'm saying is, like, I completely understand what it feels like to have an inkling on your heart to want to do something that's going to require you to step out of your comfort zone, face yourself, deal with all your baggage, and to really have that internal conflict of, I don't want to do this, but I want to do this. I don't want to do this, but I want to do this. And how that just keeps us perpetuating sometimes a behavioral pattern and a loop. And we just find ourselves stuck. 1 foot in, 1 foot out, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. And the cycle repeats itself. And so I actually worked with a coach to figure out what type of coach I should be and how to work on my own mindset to not let those things hold me back. And there are a couple of things that I learned, and it took me a long time to learn those things. And what I do now is I want to circumvent that process for anybody because it was a long time, and time is money, and time is the one resource that none of us can get back. And I want to make that process less painful for you. And I also want to make that process where you're aware of what you're going to bump into. Because when you're aware of the challenges and the stumbling blocks that come along with your visibility, it allows you to address them. And when they come up, you're not surprised. They don't catch you off guard. There's no shock and awe, and you really get things going. So, the very first thing here is, first, I want to check in on Instagram, since this is like my first time doing this, and see how this is all like panning out. Okay. I'll have to check on that. I'll just have to like check that. But in the meantime, in between time, let's pop into these 3 tips. So the very first one is cultivating a strong level of self-awareness. And I know you hear this all the time, but I actually want to tell you some ways to do that, because I think a lot of us are really just getting to know ourselves. No matter how old you are, how young you are, we are constantly evolving. So just when you thought you had a lock on who you were in the world and your identity, and your ego was super inflated about this title or this job or this position or this role in your family and your relationships, and then things start to change and you're right back at ground zero trying to figure yourself out. And so I do think that these exercises are things that we have to do at different phases in our lives. We go through these different metamorphoses, and that is okay. I know a lot of people feel like if you don't feel like you really know yourself and you don't feel that strong sense of self, that you feel like there's something wrong with you. But there isn't. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. It just is a journey. It's a part of the human experience. And that was one of the first things that I really had to understand. So, to pop into it, very first thing that I want you to do is really reflect on yourself as a child. What were the things that you like to do that didn't involve any sort of external validation? So, I mean, your parents weren't telling you you're doing a great job, your siblings, friends, anything, just something that you would do on your own. It might be, tearing things up and trying to figure out how something works. So, you might have that engineer mindset. It might be sewing and making things. So, you might have that fashion, creative energy. It might be actually reading and digesting things and then figuring out how does that apply to your life. So you might be more philosophical, or you might be a writer yourself. It might be like me. My journey was when I started to reflect on who I was, which kind of brought me back to the same work that I was doing way back in the day, is that I found out that, hey, when I was a little girl, I would play with my cousins and everything. And first of all, I was really bossy. And if they weren't playing right, I was like, okay, bye, you got to get out of my room. And then once I exiled my cousins from my room, which says a lot about me, I was a very bossy child. Shout out to the Leos and the bossy girls in the world. Okay. But I digress. So, what I found is I used to make these like plays. Like I would just create a story. I would hit play and record. Shout out to you if you know what hitting the play and record button means at the same time. And I would do these skits, these long, lengthy, elaborate, where I was a talk show host and I'm like helping my audience members resolve some sort of family drama and conflict. It was really elaborate. And what that brought me to is then my journal in high school when I was around 13 and 14, and how I had this desire to be like an Oprah type person. I just really wanted to pour into people. I wanted to see people through to change, just like an internal makeover. And all of this combined with my corporate experience, my experience as a makeup artist, it really helped me solidify and understand this is the work that I've always wanted to do. And I just chickened out because I was afraid of judgment from others. I was afraid of not being enough, quite frankly. And I know it may be a similar story for you, but it could be completely different. And the way for you to find out is to really sit with yourself and think about a little bit some of those other times in your life. My mom, mother-in-law is calling right now, but for you to really just like sit with yourself and really figure out what are some of those things. And once you do that, then the next thing that I want to tell you to do is then start to journal. Start to journal about moments in your life where you felt completely in alignment with yourself. What are those moments? What are the things that you like to do now? What do you like? What do you like to go when you have downtime, when you're not responsible for kids, a business, anything, your spouse? What do you like to do? And I know a lot of us have really gotten detached from the deepest and truest version of ourselves. So this one may be a little uncomfortable, but set a timer, give yourself anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes just so you can cultivate a little bit of more self awareness. And I will tell you, this is what happened to me, and it may happen to you. So I want to forewarn you is that sometimes when we do these things, we get we find out that the track that we're on is not the one that we want to be on anymore. And sometimes that can really shake the foundation of who we are. And we get into this kind of panic mode about who am I and where do I belong in the world and what should I be doing? But you may have those feelings, but just continue the path. You don't have to just drop everything and cut everything, because sometimes what you'll find is you can find ways to incorporate what you love into what you're already doing. So, for example, you might find out that, hey, the 9 to 5, the corporate job that you have is completely out of alignment with your deepest and truest self. And you might think, okay, well, I've got to quit. I've got to do this and I've got to just jump and take the leap. Pump the brakes. What if all you needed to do was to just start working on the passion project? Start getting back to those things that really hone in on the deepest part of who you are. So sometimes it's a Saturday thing. Sometimes it's like taking some classes, reintegrating something in your life just for fun, just so you can get that fulfillment. I think the idea that everything that we like to do needs to be capitalized on is really, it doesn't serve us. It's the best way for me to say it. It just does not serve you at all to think that every interest that you have needs to be with a dollar sign or ticket price next to it, or a membership or coaching or a package. And I'm not saying that you can't, because you absolutely can. But everything that is your deepest and truest person, sometimes those things will just enhance the thing that you're already doing. And only you will know what's right for you. And so just be willing to do that work and spend that time for yourself. And as you go through, you'll start to put the pieces of the puzzle together. It's really about trusting yourself to honor the deepest and truest part of you. All right. And so the next one, is to depersonalize likes, comments, follows. It's very hard. It's a very hard thing to do sometimes, to be able to not care what people think or say about us. And I think on some level, we will always care. It's a part of the human experience because we're social creatures and we want to connect with other humans. And so our defense mechanisms go up if we're doing something that seems like, hey, they're not vibing with this. They don't like this. They don't like me like this. Da 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 da. Whatever that narrative is that plays in your mind. But you also have to realize that sometimes it's not about you. Someone's perception of you, or someone not liking something or commenting and saying that you're not this and who are you to talk about this, that has more to do with them than it does you. And let me tell you, I understand that that's a simple thing that's really sometimes really hard for a lot of us to grasp. Even myself, I have to remind myself on a constant basis, look, sometimes we are mirrors for people. So sometimes when you're shining, when you're stepping into your you are being a trigger for someone else. They're like, oh my God, you are exceeding me. You're pursuing your dreams, then that means I should be pursuing my dreams. And I'm scared. I've got my own resistance. I've got my own reasons for not doing it. I've settled. I've done this. And I don't want to have that come to Jesus meeting with myself. And so when I see you and I see you doing your IG or whatever it is that you're doing in the world, it reflects back to me and makes me think that I should. I don't like that. So therefore, I don't like you. Therefore, unfollow. Therefore, mute. Therefore, disengage. Therefore, block you. Therefore, no longer hang out with you. Therefore, da 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 da. Therefore, criticize and hate on you. And, there's nothing wrong with those people. It's okay. People are people. Like, they have to, we have to let people go through their own journey, just like we have to go through ours. So there's no demonizing of those people, but you want to try to nip the bud and cut that personal connection that we often feel, and don't internalize it. There's no reason for you to internalize it. It's not about you, even though it feels like it is. And so that is one of the biggest things. And again, you may have to remind yourself of this like every time before you go live. Hey, whoever shows up or doesn't show up. I had a client once who said something about, well, hey, what does it mean when I like ask a question on my live and then people like get out or people just leave? And I said, you have to think, when people are watching lives, oftentimes they are multitasking. So people may be at their desk at work and just kind of doing something to fill the time until they're 5 o'clock or they're 6 o'clock, the end of their day. Sometimes people are running around, running errands and multitasking, doing all the things. So they're not just sitting there as a captive audience waiting for a chance to engage with you sometimes. We are busy, busy, busy bees. And so we do ourselves a disservice by making it always about us. And you want to know one thing? The same way that you're thinking that that person logged off because of something you said or you did or something you didn't say or something you didn't do, they are also just thinking about themselves too. The world is full of narcissists. Let's just be real. The world is full of people that are constantly thinking in their head about themselves. They don't think about you like that. And even if you feel that way, they really aren't. And the other thing is, like, it makes me think of that moment in The Temptations when it's like, ain't nobody thinking about you, Otis. That's how it is. Like, ain't nobody really thinking about you like that. All they want to know is, what can you help them do? What can you help them do? So the next one is move out of ego. Move out of the need to be validated by who shows up and who likes and who what. Serve, serve, serve. Serve, serve, serve. And the way that you get out of this kind of ego, narcissism thing, and we all do it. I ain't judging you. I ain't judging you, boo-boo. I use these same tips and tricks before I hit go live, enter, all of that. So there's no judgment. But you have to think that people want to be served. People don't care about us, they don't care about our story. All they care about is, are you really going to help me? Are you going to entertain me and make me laugh and make me get out of my head about my problems or things that I'm worried about? Are you going to help me reduce my anxiety because I'm going a million miles an hour? Are you going to help me finally get to my dreams and build this business? Are you going to help me learn to de stress and have richer and more fulfilling relationships? How are you going to help me? Are you going to help me decorate my home? Are you going to help me do my makeup? Are you going to help me? That's all people want. So instead of being so self focused and, hey, what's going on with me? What do they think about me? Who's watching me? Me. Shift into, how can I serve? And if your analytics are really reflecting that, hey, people aren't paying attention, then go back and look at it and see, am I serving or am I just trying to floss? Am I just trying to floss like a boss? Hey, listen, taking Instagram photos and doing all of that stuff is so fun. I love it. Absolutely. Like, I adore it. But I had to even catch myself. Oh, are you over here just trying to look cute and be seen, or are you serving? Because you really don't shine unless you serve. If you start to think about some of the people that you follow, that you love, it's going to be because of how they make you feel. It's not going to be because they're this, they're that. It's because they make you feel like you could be this, you could be that. They make you laugh. They make you think. They make you feel connected. They make you feel seen. They make you feel like, hey, there is someone in the world who's a lot like me. It never really is completely about that person. There's got to be something that connects your heart center to them. So it's the same when you're the one who's on the screen, when you're the one who's posting. How are you showing up to serve and not just be a complete narcissist and all in your shine? How do you create opportunities to actually have cross communication between the people that are with you? Are you asking them questions? Are you sliding in their DM? And this is also helpful because when we talk about being stuck, sometimes the reason that we're stuck is because we're so deeply disconnected from who it is that we're meant to serve, who it is that we're trying to reach. We're disconnected from what their challenges are. We're disconnected from what they really want from us. So just ask the question, hey, how can I serve you better? Hey, I saw you like that post. Would you like for me to elaborate on XYZ? I love it when some of my favorite coaches and gurus and influencers and business, blah, 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 blah. I absolutely adore it when they pose a question of, what type of video would you like me to make next? Or would you like me to dive deeper on this particular topic? DM me, say it in the comments, blah, 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 blah. Because then I know that this person is about really serving. And whether or not I comment or not, it's still really awesome because I know that person is thinking about the people on the other side of the screen. So less thinking about you, and more thinking about we. Because at the end of the day, we are all in this human experience together, and we are all trying to overcome different internal challenges that keep us from whatever our personal next level is. So you are never alone when you feel stuck, because other humans feel stuck too. And all you want to do is do these 3 little things. Let's recap. So the first one is to create some self-awareness. So journal, sit with yourself, reflect on your childhood. What got you just going? What pulled on your heart centers? What made you lose track of time? Because that will bring you back to your truest and deepest desires. The next one is to depersonalize all the social media fodder. Just depersonalize likes, follows, comments. Don't get don't drown yourself in that, because it will really keep you from living the life that you want. Because people will like you and people won't. And you're not going to be for everybody, nor should you be for everyone. Everyone has their own personal story that contributes to what their preferences are. And so you want to think about that when you start to internalize likes and follows and negative comments that may rub you the wrong way. And the last and the least one is get that ego out the way, because ego is what, as Deepak Chopra once put it very eloquently, edging God out. So make room for God, get rid of some of that ego, and start to think about less about me and more about we, the people that you are meant to serve. What do they need from you? What do they want from you? And if you feel disconnected from that, then go and ask them, slide in their DM, put some questions in your post, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever. Ask the questions, get involved in some Facebook groups or some clubhouse rooms that have your ideal client and customers, so you can start to get those ideas, and you will see yourself slowly move in the direction of being unstuck. And anytime you feel stuck, because it's a part of being a human, you're going to get it and you're going to get momentum and you're going to get going. And then life is going to cycle back around and you may have another moment of feeling stuck. But if you use these 3 tips each and every time, you will get unstuck faster, faster, and faster, and faster. All right. So thank you so much for being here. Oh, by the way, if you want more from me, you can tune into the Confidence on Camera. It's available at prettymotivated.com, and you can sign up for that. It is a quick video that is going to tell you, well, it's not that quick. Let's just be real about it. It's about a 30-minute video, but it will tell you a little bit more about the technical aspects of being confident on camera. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Smooches. Deuces. I'm out. At least I think I'm going to be out, because I'm going to try to hit some of these buttons, and yeah. All right. Woohoo.